Yeah.
It's recording to the cloud, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I see. Yes. Okay. Let's get it going. I'm very pleased that we have Jude and another session for our members and also people who are interested what we do with AKASHA. I have some difficulties with the internet line. That's why I assigned also Sebastian as a host in worst case if I drop out. I don't want to say much more. I'm very pleased to have met Jude or have had time to share some thoughts in the past with Jude. She's part of Evolution Leaders. That's also how we met. We have been several times on conference in Iceland. It's called the Spirit of Humanity Forum, which is really excellent conference, business spirituality. And I would wish now that Jude can take most of the time, or at least half an hour, to share some wisdom of her. Maybe start with a short introduction. Then we have another half an hour for Q&A, which usually is really the interesting part for us or for our members. Jude, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Marcel. It's lovely to be with everyone. And I think I want to turn it round to everyone, to be honest, today. I'll share a little bit about my background. I was born in the north of England. I'm the daughter and granddaughter of coal miners. So my upbringing was both very modest and very practical. And yet I was looking at the stars and exploring, walking between worlds, as I describe it, from a very early age. I've had lifelong experiences of telepathic communications, out-of-body experiences, precognition, that I describe as supernormal. In other words, they are not supernatural nor paranormal. But also my journey has involved my ultimately becoming what I call a cosmologist. And if you look up the word cosmologist, it means somebody who researches the nature of the whole universe. For me, it goes deeper because it's a curiosity about the deeper nature of reality, which through my own lifelong experiences, but also my research, I have a master's degree in physics from Oxford University, researching cosmologies and quantum physics, and also a PhD in archaeology, researching ancient cosmologies. So my lifelong journey has always been a curiosity about who we really are and why and how, the biggest questions we possibly can ask ourselves. Where do we come from? Where might we be going? But allied to that, after leaving university, leaving Oxford, I went straight into an organisational business world, qualified as an accountant. I ended up, after 20 plus years, being one of the most senior business women in the UK, being the finance director of two $500 million turnover businesses operating in 36 countries. So I've had a very scenic route in my life. And then in my mid-40s, I'd done one business plan too many. And I was getting a sense of something that was really calling me, which is, with all the journey that far, how could I serve in a deeper sense for people who were certainly asking by then their own questions about who were they, how are they, and a realization that the materiality and separate appearance of our universe, the paradigm of materialism and separation, was both not resonating with their inner truths and inner realizations and inner questionings, but at that time was also starting to throw up evidence that it was actually not just outworn, but actually mistaken at many levels. So my journey continued, and all this time later, I'm the author of 7 books that share this evolving understanding. But also my work, as Marcel knows, is really in a world that is so fragmented, that is so challenged now by existential threats. What do we do? How do we do? How do we respond to both that situation? And for me, it's far more than a meta crisis. It's the opportunity for a metamorphosis of humanity. It's a metamorphosis, if we know the story of the caterpillar you know, eats everything in its world and then nothing left to eat essentially, and then goes into a cocoon, and in that cocoon it dissolves. It loses its own sense of self. But as a result of that, a new body, a new perspective, a new way of living, a new way of being and doing emerges, which is the butterfly. So a lot of my work now is serving transformational change in the world from behaviors and choices and structures and organizations that are founded on that old paradigm of materialism and separation, with all their hierarchies, with all their dysfunctionalities, into the potential of a new world and our conscious evolution, where we can literally wake up to remember who we really are and hopefully step into the next level of our adventure as human beings, and more than that. So that's my very brief journey so far, and I think that's why Marcel asked me to share with you some of my work. And I haven't really touched on it now because there is so much evidence of what I'm sharing. But in a way, I want to turn that back to begin with on each of you on this call, really to ask you why you're on the call. Why did you decide to show up and join this call today? What is it in you that piqued your curiosity about coming together today? Or what is it within you that has called you to this community, this AKASHA community? And I'd love to start with Sebastian.
Yeah, hi. Well, thanks for the introduction, Jude. Yeah, I'm Sebastian from Belgium originally. Like straight to your question, what really resonates is the curiosity. That's also something I was always born with, and how life goes. Sometimes you're less curious, sometimes you're more curious. But I think like after you know, diving into professional life and diving into the rigid structures of society, there comes a time where you feel or you remember that you were more curious as a child, or more curious even as a teenager, and that curiosity after a while comes back. So also on a professional level, I work as an architect. I did like the normal stuff that was required from us. And after a while within my profession, I started sensing things and asking questions about spaces we develop. Why are we doing these spaces, and what are spaces doing to us? And this was like my, I don't know how you call it. Like my pathway into this into diving or into asking more questions about our reality, what spaces are, what's beneath the surface. And these are questions that are still yeah, popping up every day. And I wouldn't say I have all the answers, but I'm feeling I'm on the right path to ask questions. It feels good to ask questions.
I love that. I love that. And never stop asking questions. I've heard architecture described as frozen music. And my husband's an architect. And one of the things that, as part of my curiosity, not just at the leading edge of science, but also the wisdom teachings of many traditions, is the understanding of the innate relationships that, of course, an architect really has to bring into full embodiment in that regard, you know, in space and through time. So, you know, there's a very powerful tradition of teachings called the quadrivium, which, as you'd expect, is 4 teachings. And those 4 teachings are basically a holistic cosmology. And then within that, the understanding of number and geometry and music as innately relational. So, you know, all is number in that regard. So music is number through time, and geometry is number in space. So I know that a lot of the sort of the Enlightenment architects, for example, were grounded in that quadrivium teaching, and that sense of everything in relationship. And when we look at cosmology now, the cosmological model that's coming forward is of a harmonic, harmonious, resonant, relational universe, instead of the old paradigm of essentially a universe that is meaningless, purposeless, random, you know, and made up of separate things, even with the clues of quantum physics and relativity. Now that's been turned completely on its head. And what is emerging now is a cosmology of a living, meaningfully existing, purposefully evolving, living and loving universe that does so, that meaningfully exists and purposefully evolves as a unitive entity, as a unitive multidimensional entity. And vitally, and this is something that I think is perhaps the biggest potential answer to the biggest potential question of who really are we. It's showing us that mind and consciousness aren't something we have, but literally what we and the whole world are. So as Sir James Jeans said many years ago, 100 years ago, the universe, and he was realizing it from the evidence even then, the universe is more a great thought than a great thing. So in that sense, we are its microcosmic co-creators, because it has innate meaning and purpose. We have innate meaning and purpose. So there's something about what I consider to be a really good architecture is when you feel you belong in that space. I don't know if you agree with that, Sebastian, but that, whether it's a home or whatever building it is, where there's that sense of belonging, that sense of harmony and almost nurturing around you. And this cosmology is of not just of its unity expressed in abundant diversity, but belonging, because it's showing us that we belong to our universe. It's profoundly intimate. I talk about our universe beginning not 14 billion years ago as a Big Bang, because we know it wasn't big. That was facetious. But we imply as a bang chaos. It did not begin that way. Our universe, from the very first moment of space-time, began in an incredibly ordered and exquisitely fine-tuned way, just as the best buildings have the most gorgeous, exquisite, often sacred geometry. And it's called sacred geometry because it is the sanctity of universal reality, the patterns, the relationships, whether it be the golden mean or all the others, are sacred because they are a reflection of universal harmony. So our universe began in that harmonic way. It began in that exquisitely fine-tuned way, and ever since, as space has expanded and time's flowed forward, that exquisite, impeccable, relational, dynamic order and precision has enabled its evolutionary journey from its innate simplicity, its originating simplicity, to ever greater levels of complexity and individuation and self-awareness. And to us, having this conversation today as individuated, self-aware beings, as I said, microcosmic co-creators of its ongoing evolutionary journey. So, you know, I love that you're an architect, and it's such an honourable following, an honourable path. But for me, it is about, you know, the universe literally fractaled into a building at its very best, which is why the best buildings, whether they be Gothic cathedrals or simple homes that just nurture you as you walk through the door, it seems to me are a reflection of that universal magnificence and wonder. So thank you. Who'd like to go? Who'd like to go next and say and share with us why you're here today, why you showed up?
Can I quickly jump in, because some people had seemingly difficulties because Notion was down, also because of this Microsoft failure. But Sebastian, you keep letting them in, and I seen also Mark is here. And it would be nice if those who can turn on the camera. It's always nicer to see the faces, just a small reminder. Those who cannot or don't wish to stay in the listening mode. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcel. So my question is to everybody and those who are coming in, because I know we're quite compact on time today. Anyone else would like to share why you're here and what your path is and what your curiosity is to join us today?
So hi, the internet seems to be very fragile at the moment. Reading the global news, Microsoft is down, many services all around the world, and I just got the link from Marcel a couple of minutes ago. So I would be very happy to eager to see the conversation from the beginning, from the recording. But obviously, the reason why I'm here today and why we are partnering with Marcel is obviously to get the deeper meaning of why we're here, what's our purpose, and how the universe works. So that's definitely the main subject of the existence and of what's going on. And because I've lately felt, to be honest, a lot of kind of emptiness after being quite successful in my career, and I'm now in my mid-40s. And what's the purpose? What is it all about? And what's we've still half time left in this planet, and what's the best way to use this time? And that's also one of the purpose of the AKASHA, to bring together the people who resonate of this subject. And I'm very happy that Marcel has such a great friends that have deeper knowledge to guide us in this journey. So so I'm happy. It was just my little comments, and would be really happy to hear your insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. Well, in this time together, we've only got a short amount to actually go into the sort of what is emerging. But what I would suggest and point you to is there is the website that first of all, I've written 7 books, and the last 2 books are called The Cosmic Hologram, that came out in 2017, and The Story of Gaia, that came out in 2022. And what those books do is they amass all the evidence, the leading edge evidence across all scales of existence, across many different fields of research, to underpin what effectively I've just been sharing. That this new understanding, which is also an ancient understanding in many universal wisdom teachings, of essentially a meaningful, existing, purposefully evolving, unitive, living, loving universe of consciousness, of mind and consciousness. And the reason that I wrote those books is that, first of all, the evidence was just beginning to come through in a very powerful way. So most of the papers I refer to in those books are in the last few years, or even the last year, and they're more and more growing. So this is an emergent trend of understanding that supports your curiosity, Marek and Sebastian. It supports what you're all doing here in AKASHA, in really seeking to understand and experience that deeper nature of reality, where we have innate meaning and purpose as microcosmic co-creators. I'll keep coming back to that because, they're long terms. But what I mean by that is, if our universe is the macrocosm, everything within it is part of that wholeness, and yet everything within it has its own unique place. I mean, certainly when we move up from the scale of atoms to molecules and beyond, the level of individuation and consciousness continues to increase, to essentially to planets and to people and more. So we are microcosms of our universe's living intellect and sentience. And so we're also part of its evolutionary impulse. So the sort of curiosity and the sort of questions that we're asking now, it seems to me, are vital at this time of a pivotal moment in our story as human beings, because it's clear that having journeyed to this point, and with a worldview that is generally one of separation of materiality at this point, that our behaviors have caused such dysfunctionality and problems that we cannot go on as we are. And I'm not blaming or shaming or saying we never should have taken this route. There are many really good reasons why I feel it's important that we have taken this journey to this point. But what the story of Gaia, what the story of our universe shows us, is that at each point when that evolutionary impulse is moving to its next level of complexity, then competition gives way to cooperation. It comes together. So just as the first cells didn't have a nucleus, first biological cells didn't have a nucleus, a bacterium then got ingested in a process of symbiosis to create a nucleus for cells, which enabled more complexity to develop. Another feature was the bringing into a cell a little engine, a mitochondria, which basically is the engine of our cells. That enabled more energy to be processed. Cells came together to form multicellular creatures, and then different levels of complexity all the way through, and not just biological evolution, but the evolution of our universe, the evolution that began nearly 14 billion years ago in the simplest way possible of primarily hydrogen, some helium, a little bit of lithium. Took 200 million years or more from that point to the first stars. It took billions of years more and generations of stars to something like 5.5 billion years ago, where there were interstellar clouds of dust, of stardust and ice, and all the chemical elements that make the whole world, all 94 natural elements, were already there 5.5 billion years ago in interstellar clouds. And it's from such an interstellar cloud, about 5 billion years ago, that gravitationally collapsed as a result of the shock waves of the explosion of a nearby star that created our planetary system. But the point is that all the elements that make us up, that make our planetary home up, were there way before our planetary system was formed. And not just that, but by that stage, evolution had been able to come to the point of prebiotic molecules. So a level of complexity in those interstellar clouds that could not go any further, but it was there ready, waiting, as sort of birthing places for planetary systems. So when our planetary system was formed, and again, not in chaos, but that collapse into a protostar and planets orbiting our proto-sun were in harmonic resonant orbits. And what that was able to do, it meant that our planet was able to form pretty much distant from our sun as it is now, but able to form as a water planet. And as forming as a water planet, all of those prebiotic complex molecules that were already there in those interstellar clouds of dust were able to kickstart further biological complexity and evolution on our planetary home. And this understanding is literally only now being supported by evidence, because we can look out at those clouds and we can analyze them spectroscopically, and we can see all the signatures for the forerunners of DNA and RNA and amino acids and lipids and sugars, all the building blocks of biological life. We can see out there, thousands of light years away, across the Milky Way, in these incredible birthing places for future planets and future biological organisms, and so for us. So the whole universe is this incredible story that we now have the evidence for, that shows that evolution is not driven in any way by random occurrences. It is part of a purposefully emergent universe whose entire journey has been from simplicity to ever greater levels of complexity. so to us, so to individuated, self-aware beings who can have this conversation, who can be curious, who have now the scientific methodologies and technologies that can look into the tiniest scales of the nature of our universe, the furthest away. We can now look back to the beginning of our universe. We're starting now to really bring all of, well, more than starting, which an incredible moment of discovery and emergence. But what is absolutely vital is it's not telling us a story of materiality and separation. It's telling us a story of universal mind, and that mind for manifestation as the appearance of our universe, its appearance of space and time and energy and matter is real, but it is not its deepest underlying fundamental nature. Its appearance emerges from those deeper levels of cosmic intelligence, cosmic sentience, whatever we want to call that. Einstein called it cosmic mind. You know, different religious traditions call it God or Allah or whatever. This is neither religious nor secular. It's both and, because this is what the latest science is revealing. And it's really going back. Its discoveries are reconfirming universal wisdom teachings, whether they're the geometries of the ancient Greeks, whether they're the Tao Te Ching of the ancient Chinese, whether the Vedic traditions of ancient India, that again described the nature of reality as the outbreath of God. We now know that when we go back 14 billion years, our universe began in its smallest level, in that exquisitely fine-tuned state. And ever since, space has expanded and time flowed. So again, rather than a big bang, we can start to understand it as a big breath. That out-breath of the manifestation of our universe. And of course, the beauty of such a, it's not even a metaphor, it's so reflective of the nature of the reality of our universe. But that big breath, our universal big breath that's been ongoing for nearly 14 billion years, literally breathes through our little breaths in every moment. We can really envisage ourselves breathing in that universal sentience and love through us as microcosms of its magnificence, and then breathing out that love that breathes us into being. And again, there's another sort of ancient reflection, because the ancient Sanskrit word for breath, prana, is also the word for spirit. So we're finding these reflections as the more that leading edge science is coming to this same understanding, but with different language and deeper and bigger and crucially evolutionary perspective. We can also perhaps reflect back on and rediscover and honor not just ancient wisdom, but the indigenous teachings that for millennia continue to share the understanding that we're part of that web of life. They did not perhaps have the evolutionary perspective in that. They talked about cycles, but we now have that ability to take that on, honoring and taking on the understanding that our universe doesn't just meaningfully exist, but vitally, fundamentally, it embodies an evolutionary impulse. And we're part of that. And we're here on its bow wave of potential. So this surely, with all of this coming together now, both the push of unsustainability and the pull of potential and emergent understanding, can invite us surely into waking up, not only to remember who we really are, but to come together, to consciously evolve, to heal any traumas that have emerged from the illusion of separation, for sure, but then to move forward together into what I mentioned earlier, I would reframe as a metamorphosis for our species and our planetary home, because our conscious evolution in this understanding can play a vital part in our planetary home Gaia's own evolutionary progress and purpose. So I'll just pause there and ask another question. I want to know who else, why anyone else has shown up today. Hardy, would you like to share with us why you're here, or why you think you're here?
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. So yeah, out of curiosity is one thing, but I'm on the journey to understand what we are looking for, like what the human being is looking for in their lives. And this journey for me started, I don't even remember how much time ago, almost a decade ago, when I started to question myself. And then I realized that others are also asking those questions from themselves, that what we are looking for and what is missing in our lives. There are different theories, what we are missing in our lives, or why we are looking all the time something else outside of ourselves. But yeah, this is the one thing and the main thing what creates this curiosity inside of me. And I like that idea that we need to come together on a collective level and amplify each other's ideas and help to heal each other. But it also raises another question inside of me when a group of people who are traumatized and not getting along with themselves and not understanding who they are, and then they are gathering together, then I think it might amplify this situation on the negative side as well. So first of all, how I see is that we should work with ourselves and then come together on a collective level and start working as a collective.
Wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, I don't know if you know, thank you, Hardy, that was really great. I don't know if you know Ken Wilber's work, but he talks about a process of waking up, growing up, and then Dustin DePerma talks about cleaning up, and then showing up. So that sense of an inner awakening to what you're describing. I think you're all describing this questioning, you know, who am I, where am I, why am I, all the rest of it, and perhaps a mismatch between what you're feeling inside and what the outer world is potentially perceiving to be. So waking up to the sort of understanding that, you know, I'm talking about, that the emergent awareness is, and the evidence is showing us at a deep level, and converging with universal wisdom teachings into this unitive perspective and a unitive narrative, because we're a narrative sharing species. So to help underpin and frame potential change in the world. But then on that basis, the waking up and the growing up, because we grow through this process, our awareness grows through this process inevitably. But then exactly the cleaning up, which is Dustin's term for healing the trauma. And you're right, that has to be back to each and every one of us. But one of the things that I'm encouraged by is just how much of that now is being undertaken. There are healers, so many healers now around the world that are really serving that potential for resolution and release of trauma. That's a lot of it really, I would say, at its root is a dis-ease of separation, And so my work is to serve the understanding, experiencing, embodying of a unitive awareness where that illusion of separation and that dis-ease is healed from the deepest level. But then what? And then, you know, they sort of talk about showing up, which is what all of you are doing. And then I've added a couple of more links, which I say lift up, link up and lift up, because that's when we can do so together. But if you're right, if we come together with a really large amount of trauma and unresolved issues within ourselves, it's very difficult to actually serve from an altruistic basis the potential for transformational change. So I absolutely bravo to all of you coming into the AKASHA community, because I know Marcel, you know, the level of support and mutuality and just, you know, helping each other along this journey is wonderful. And I would say that with my work around the world, you are one of a myriad of what I call imaginal cells. Because in metamorphosis, what happens when the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, the body starts to dissolve into a sort of nutrient goop. But within that nutrient goop, there's little DNA clusters that are there from the birth of the caterpillar, but are dormant until that moment. And in that dissolution process, they are activated. So the caterpillar, other than some memories, some intestinal sac, and also the ability to breathe, they continue. The rest of the caterpillar essentially dissolves. But in doing so, these imaginal cells of the future butterfly begin to form. And in that process, they then begin to come together. And they start to form the eyes, the antenna, the wings of the butterfly to be. So around the world now, all around the world now, there are groups of folks coming together, and movements and networks and movements of movements emerging that are all essentially the imaginal cells of this potential for emergence and conscious evolution. And so AKASHA is a beautiful exemplar of that. Because then
Jude,
you can...
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, Marcel, sorry,
Yeah.
just to finish up, just to say, so you're linking up together and lifting up together within AKASHA, but I would also say now is the time where each of the groups are linking up together, and I can talk about a lot of the work I'm doing, which is global in scale, which is many organizations now realizing that this is the time and this is the opportunity, when it's appropriate and when it's right, to take to that next level of butterfly creation. Sorry, Marcel, you had a question.
No, Jude, I'm so grateful for everything you shared, and I have one big question on and I run into these hotels, so my internet connection is better. I have one big question, because at the beginning you said the Big Bang was a reflection of universal harmony. And my question is always, how did we end up in this dualistic trap, or when did we lose this harmony? Because there is a book out there, I forgot the name, it's about beauty. And yes, that the problems of the world today is that we lost the sense of beauty, because beauty is at the end harmony, and everything in nature is harmonious. And I wondered when did we start to go off track as this human species? What's your thought there?
Okay, well, first of all, yeah, I love that. And in fact, the Greek philosophers talked about a triad of beauty, truth, and goodness. All of that being embodied. So for me, there are no accidents in the universe. There are no accidents. And nothing in that sense is random. Everything is part of a universe that literally, existentially, meaningfully exists and purposely evolves. So our evolution, our story to this point, I would also place in that context. So if we go back, say 10,000 years, because we could go back further than that, but let's go back 10,000 years. Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. As an archaeologist of the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, and the Neolithic, and onwards, you can track the egalitarian nature of their societies. You can track their being in harmony, as in fact the Australian Aboriginal communities have been for at least 40,000 years within their environment, realizing that they are all part of a web of life. But what I track in the archaeological record is a time to about 3,000 years BCE, so about 5,000 years ago. And until that point, although our ancestors had started to build monuments, certainly in Western Europe, they built stone circles and monuments. Even then, the societies were egalitarian. They were not hierarchical. And yet then things changed. When we come into what's known as the Bronze Age, we start to get much more aggressive, much more militaristic, much more hierarchical. I would have to say much more male-dominated societies. And I'm not suggesting that the early societies were necessarily matriarchal, because the evidence is changing with that. At one point, it was thought that perhaps they were. Now it just seems that they're much more balanced. So the masculine, feminine attributes were much more balanced throughout the communities and valued throughout the communities. But as we moved into the Bronze Age and the ability to create weapons made of a hard metal, that changed. And societies began to be, as I say, more hierarchical, more male-dominated, etc. And that's really continued for the last 5,000 years. And with that, and certainly as we go through those 5,000 years, we get the sort of the growth of hierarchy-based structures, organizations, nations, empires, etc. And then we come to a time where essentially we progressively saw ourselves as being separate from the rest of the world. We saw ourselves somehow being separate from the web of life. And that dominant mindset created so much of the dysfunctionality that we have now and that we realize is unsustainable now. But rather than see it as somehow going off track, can I put it a different way? Can I suggest that it was part of our journey to this level of understanding? Because if we go back 5,000 years, we did have very egalitarian societies, but those societies pretty much hadn't changed for many, many thousands of years. We look at the sort of the stone tools, and the stone tools of the old Stone Age, as it's known, are similar for tens, hundreds of thousands of years. The stone tools of the Mesolithic are pretty much constant for many thousands of years. We move into this new Neolithic or new Stone Age, and we're starting to get new tools and some innovation. And our brains are innovative. Modern humans are curious and innovative. And so I'm just going to finish this point because it really, I hope, answers your question. So our innate urge to be innovative, our innate urge to be curious, our innate urge to change, and our innate urge as social beings brought us down this journey. But part of that was that we moved away from that profound relationship with the rest of the world and with our planetary home. But what it's done is it's actually brought within us, Marcel, a deeper sense of individuated self, a deeper sense of agency. And yet that agency has pushed itself to the limit of individuated self-expression, where it's become unsustainable. But we wouldn't be where we are now with this conversation had it not been the last period of journey of thousands of years to this point. So what I'm saying is, rather than see it as a coming off track, let's see it as part of our growing up as a species. Let's see it as either the terrible twos or the naughty teenagers or whatever it is. You would not be the adults you are now with the maturity that you have now without the journey to this point. And I, for one, don't regret a step of my journey, however challenging it's been, because I wouldn't be the person I am today without that journey. And so I'm suggesting that if we can reframe our journey as a human species in those terms, we have all the ability now to respond to the dysfunctional behaviors, to wake up, grow up, to clean up, to show up, to link up, to lift up. We would not be able to do that now without that journey of the last thousands of years.
I fully agree, Jude. Thanks a lot. I mean, this progress, innovation, and curiosity. That's why we are here. That's even the calling of AKASHA, and without, I'm not seeing it as a negative thing. Yeah, maybe it's evolution's wish for progress and innovation and curiosity. Yeah, for experiences on this beautiful planet. Yeah.
Exactly, because ours is an experiential universe.
Yeah.
You know, it exists, for me at any rate, it exists meaningfully and purposefully evolves for such experiences. And it's a loving universe, it's a living universe. So, you know, it seems to me that it's offering us an invitation now to do what we're sharing, to step into that.
Getting even more exciting.
Exactly, to step into that next adventure.
Yeah. David, you wanted to ask a question. I've seen you unmuted. I mute myself. I have some background.
Sure, I will ask a question, but first I'll just quickly introduce myself. And first of all, I'd like to say that this has been, until now, very inspiring, and I really enjoy the poetic way that you are weaving through the introductions of the people into these very deep concepts. So thank you for that, and I'm definitely going to check out the books. I mean, that's why I'm here, is basically to be around people who are inspiring and are interested in expanding consciousness. I came to Marcel and Marek through the Biohacker Summit community, which is seems to have a lot of overlap with the AKASHA community. And it's what I need, because in my day-to-day life, and also just being a human being on planet Earth these days, reading the news, it's hard to sometimes see you know, the bigger picture, the way you're describing it. And it's important to invest energy to interact with people who are thinking in that direction, you know, not to lose sight of it. And I guess that's also connected to my question. It really spoke to me what you just said now about how it's a process, and you know, we needed to, as a species, develop these hierarchies in order to achieve the level of technological advancement that we have today. It wouldn't have been possible otherwise. But now we're actually at a point, and we really are at a point, where the technology exists to completely dissolve all of these hierarchies, you know, to just exist through the blockchain, and to have AI solving all of our problems, but, you know, to be beholden to us rather than have us be beholden to it. And it's amazing that we could actually do that. We could have clean energy for everybody. We could have food for everybody. And, you know, but my question to you is it just an article of faith to say that, you know, the intelligent design of the universe is taking us so far away from our original egalitarian nature in order to then present us with the you know, the moment of truth where we have to make the decision, and we will make the right decision, and we will dissolve into the expansion of consciousness, and you know, without all of these hierarchies, and without all of these dangerous weapons? Or do you actually see, as a scientist, built into the system through analogies with other processes, other cycles that have actually happened biologically, physics, archaeologically, that it's built in already that we will make the right decision? In other words, is it just that's a convenient and the best thing to believe, which I agree with also, or do we feel like there's evidence pointing us in the direction that that will actually happen?
I don't think there's evidence pointing us in the direction that it'll actually happen. I mean, what I would say, David, is our universe can go on without us. Our planetary home can go on without us. But every step in the way over the last 14 billion years has brought us to this point. So it seems to me we have a collective choice, and I'm a free will person, in the sense that, you know, we, being microcosmic co-creators of our universe, we have free will. We can make a choice to blow ourselves up. We can make a choice to continue with the craziness of conflict. We can make a collective choice. And what you find, I'll go take a step back here, because if we look at the evolutionary impulse from simplicity to complexity that's gone through all these billions of years and over the last 4+ billion years with our planetary home, with Gaia, what you see is beneath the appearance of our universe, space, time, energy, matter, you have what's called holotropic attractors. And they are essentially patterns of meaningful information, and meaningful information that then is expressed as the energy, matter, space, time of our universe. But because they are of themselves discarnate, they are beneath that level of physicality and manifestation. What they are patterns of complexity. And what happens is, as you go through the evolutionary process, you get to a point where a particular system cannot hold anymore. It becomes unsustainable, whether it's due to changing climate or catastrophic impacts, such as the dinosaurs had 66 million years ago, whatever it may be. The holotropic attractor can maintain, dynamic health until it can't, until its boundaries start to be affected and compromised. But then what happens is that pattern falls away because it cannot hold its coherence. But in the evolutionary impulse, higher levels of complexity begin to cohere. So what I talked about earlier about single cells to multi-cells and onward, every step of that way, the holotropic attractors that underpin the appearance of complexity are of themselves also evolving, but there is often a breakdown as well as a breakthrough. So for example, when the dinosaurs, when the asteroid hit 66 million years ago, and the dinosaurs were the dominant, biology of the time, biological organisms of the time, they died out essentially overnight. And the only dinosaurs that survived are the birds. The birds are living dinosaurs. But they had come to just about the cusp of their evolutionary potential. But scurrying in the undergrowth at the time of the dinosaurs were tiny little shrew-like beings, early mammals, probably nocturnal, scared of life in the big dinosaur world. But what happened was incredibly rapid evolutionary emergence following the demise of the dinosaurs, because biological evolution isn't just a linear process through DNA hand down. It also has a huge amount of what's called horizontal gene transfer. And the horizontal gene transfer happens incredibly quickly and over few generations. So in terms of the biological evolution, it can be quite slow if conditions are constant. It can move to some pace, depending on the various cycles of ice ages and others, and it can move incredibly radically and rapidly following some sort of potential breakdown into a breakthrough. Now, we're at a point where it's not about biological breakthrough we're talking about for us, but it is the potential of conscious breakthrough. So just as in biology, horizontal gene transfer can drive amazingly radical and rapid evolution, I talk about horizontal, instead of horizontal gene transfer, horizontal meme transfer, because we are a species of ideas, of narratives, of stories. If the stories we tell now based on this evidence are transformational, so that instead of based on separation, they're based on unity and diversity, unity and belonging. We can tell examples and stories that inspire and empower and offer authentic hope. And with all the technologies we have, the communication technologies we have, working with compassionate and ethics-based AI to support human-led and heart-centered progress, we can, in my view, have an amazingly rapid evolution of an emergence of higher level consciousness, because the holotropic attractors that underpin our collective psyche are sufficiently pervaded by a perspective of separation that they have manifested in the behaviors that have been manifested. But the reason we're able to have this conversation, and many, 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 many other conversations like this are happening around the world, is because it seems to me there is a holotropic attractor of evolutionary consciousness forming, is potentizing, is potentializing. And what happens in that process is the old breaks down, the new, just as in a caterpillar to butterfly, the new is strengthened, is empowered. And that's what I feel this is about. And it is our choice. I don't see it as, it's not a slam dunk, it is not a done deal. The universe will continue to evolve. Whether we're part of that evolutionary progress, it's our choice. And enough of us making that choice, and enough of us serving that choice, which was what I think, Marek, you were talking about. You know, what's the purpose? Maybe the purpose is to serve that choice, the choice of love rather than the choice of fear, the choice to come together and link up and lift up together and level up and light up together with everything at our disposal. I love it. I love it. You know, choose love and do everything any of us can to serve love.
So is the tipping point really where people like us, so to speak, get a hold of AI and use it to disseminate these ideas in such a massively scalable and powerful way?
I think that's part of it. I think it's just part of it. I mean, I'm part of what we're calling a deep and rapid transformation convergence process. And that's been emerging over the last few months. And we're holding a series of online roundtables across, you know, many, many different dimensions of potential transformational change, heading to New York in September, aligned with, but not part of, the UN Summit of the Future, because this is civil society, leading edge change makers, all the rest of it. But we have, as part of that DRTC, some amazing AI wizards. And it's a human-led, heart-centered process. But yes, we're using AI, and we're using, we're beta testing something called Kiiren, Kiiren, as a generative AI part of the community, as it were. But what we're doing is, I know that in many ways, AI is being not to be biased. And to sort of the large language models, you know, across as large a database, as large a knowledge base as possible. We are actually taking a different perspective. We're saying we are biased. We are absolutely and transparently biased, because all the knowledge base that's going into Kiiren is unitive, a unitive narrative, a unitive worldview, the science of love, what is altruism? What does service mean? How can we link up? So, for example, and we have some amazing folks leading edge of transformational economics, environmental, regenerative, education, youth, peace, security, government, all of it coming from this unitive perspective and unity in diversity. But what that means is that all of the knowledge base is coming into Kiiren, and hopefully following September, that will be available to anybody and everybody who wants to sort of use it to serve and support their own service of transformational change. So, for example, if we trust ChatGPT for possibility, ChatGPT, show me a strategy to do the most cost-effective plastic packaging for ABC. So ChatGPT will probably come back and go, this is this, this is this, this is the strategic plan, this is how you do it. And it would greenwash, potentially. If you to ask Kiiren the same question, Kiiren would likely come back and say, why do you want to make plastic packaging? These are some alternatives. And these are some ways in which these alternatives, you know, are far more environmentally friendly, far less, in whatever way. Kiiren would come very deliberately, transparently, biased, based on wholeness, underpinned and framed by wholeness in action. So what I would love to see you guys do is use your genius, because you have that, to bring forward those sort of technologies that serve health, that serve wholeness, that serve life, that serve love.
Amazing.
Wow, I mean, I'm deeply touched, and I would love to hear a few more words from people maybe we haven't heard, like Harald. What has it done to you listening this hour or being here with us this hour, or others?
So hello everyone. Sorry that I'm scanning all the time the sky because a huge thunderstorm is coming along, and I don't know how long it takes. I'm on a modern-day pilgrimage. I moved out on my 56th birthday from my house in February. I handed over everything to my wife, and I literally left naked. And ever since I'm on this pilgrimage, and I'm just guided by my heart, and I completely surrender. And this is also how I ended up in this communication here, and I really appreciate and enjoyed this part of my pilgrimage. I'm really grateful for it. And I know Marcel and the AKASHA dreams for several years now. And for me, for the last 17 years, I was a dream developer. So for me, it's always beautiful from the moment people articulate the dream till the moment it unfolds in the most beautiful ways. And this is what I'm seeing right now, that AKASHA is unfolding in the most beautiful way. And seeing all these people behind, and listening to their ideas, that we as a human family come together. And this is what I see. As long as we come together as a human family, technology is a great assistant, and it should always be a great assistant. But I see the human component is key. And this is what I see on an everyday basis, a pilgrimage. Wherever I go, you know, as soon as I start talking with people, hearts are opening, and we are connecting on a, I would say, fantastic basis. And for me, it's always really, really, yeah, I always feel so touched, but most probably due to our, I lived in a beautiful house in the countryside, you know, we had a modern day life. And most probably this modern day life sometimes is a barrier to the human connection, because you have everything at home. You are so used to use your own stuff. You're not even not even encouraged to connect with someone like a neighbor, except for barbecue. And when we come together and share what deeply resonates with us, what deeply is within, then suddenly people are opening up and feel like, wow, there is someone who doesn't want anything from me except that maybe a good feeling. And instead of giving shells, which is usually used on pilgrims' ways, I'm distributing hearts on everyday basis. So for the last 7 years, I distributed most probably thousands of hearts, and I see the impact in people's life. So it says, I'm a heart investor. And when we speak about like business, for my 56th birthday, I received something very valuable, which I'm encouraged to do, for everyone to do that. I received the balance sheet of life. So if you're nothing, if you don't have anything, what else remains? Who is there for you? Who is calling you? Who is offering you something? Not because you are asking, you're just an individual. But let your life speak on your balance sheet of life.
Beautiful.
And thank you for this beautiful opportunity. Just in case if I have to cut, I see already some thunder. I hear some thunder rolling in the back. So if I'm leaving this conversation, I'm really grateful for each and every one of you, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing you in real life one day. And thank you so much, Marcel and Marek, for hosting this beautiful group. Thank you.
Thank you, Harald. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
you. We are about to wrap up. I think we could have gone so much further. There is Mari. We haven't heard your voice. Is it correct? I would love to hear a few words from you.
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm very excited and happy to be here. I have actually been on the personal development journey for about 20 years already. So I have been exploring so many areas. You know, this spiral keeps going one way and another, and then you touch on that and this thing there, and it's very, very exciting. And all of the things that you said, it's very interesting for me to look at how we as human beings live here on Earth, because one thing that I have actually realized that people keep forgetting is that we are Earth. This body comes from Earth. We are it. So if all of the people would remember that, they would never harm this planet. Like, you would take it so differently. The fact that we have actually grown out of it. We are it. Wasn't like someone took me as a doll and just brought me here, you know? So that's something very, very intriguing. And I think that's a message to remind people that we are this place. Yeah. And yeah, I'm very happy that Marek and Marcel have started to grow this community, because when I spoke about it with Marek, I was thinking in my head that, oh my God, this is something that I have been envisioning. I just haven't been able to put it into words, but I had been waiting for it. And this, your idea, the whole AKASHA space, it's even better than I could have imagined. And that's the best part of, you know, figuring out things in life. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here and with this community. Thank you. Oh,
I mean,
also,
yeah.
Bliss, and she wanted to come and say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Bliss. A nice name you got.
Yes, who wouldn't want more bliss in their life, you know?
Absolutely, Mari.
That's maybe how we feel. Jude, my deepest gratitude for who you are and what you do. I'm always deeply touched, and it's more a feeling than a thought. And you said it. The whole existence is more a thought than a thing, and we collectively create. And AKASHA is one of those microcosmos. And maybe what you said to Marek, this purpose is to serve the purpose of love. I think that's really how we could close and use your genius, as you said. That's a very beautiful takeaway for everybody of us. Going into separate directions, and then we meet again as a group and share this. So valuable for me. This is like so valuable. That's why I envision AKASHA to have such conversation, because it's so rewarding and uplifting to share how is this human experience for you. I can get a little glimpse how it is for me, and I'm so curious to learn from others how it is on this earth for others. Yeah, deeply grateful.
Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, everyone, and so much love and joy and gratitude to all of you for all that you are and all that you do. So
take care. Have a lovely summer.
Thank you. You
Stay
too.
healthy. Bye. Thanks
Lots
so much.
Lots of love, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.